All right, so I know this was a long quote-unquote lesson. It had like, this is I think part 6, but there's just a lot to know about classes, a lot of little details, so I kind of left it into one giant lesson with the smaller breakout pieces. But the good news is you're almost done with basic object-oriented programming. Then we'll spend probably as much time, if not more, looking at advanced object-oriented programming. But let's go ahead and finish this example. Okay, so in my Star Wars example here, I'm going to go ahead and just comment out these 3 lines right here where I'm creating the G-droid and printing them out. I don't really want to do that. I just was kind of testing those out. I'll actually just delete the print statements. I'll delete it all. Okay, so when I play this, right, we were kind of stuck right here. Please identify the droid you wish to register to drive your land speeder, right? So Luca Skyscraper at this point should respond by essentially, talking to the droid and saying, all right, droid, can you identify yourself? However, right, if we look at this main, we're just iterating through the humanoids. We don't have any sense of like droids being in this loop. It's just the humanoids. So what I actually want is I want to model ownership of the droid class by the humanoid class. Okay. So what I'm going to do to model that is in my humanoid class, I'm going to add a new instance variable. Okay. And this instance variable is going to be a private droid, and I'll just call it droid. Okay, so private droid. All right, so basically we need to go through our code and just kind of add the getters and setters and whatnot for everything. Okay, so in my default constructor, I'm going to come back through and I'm going to say droid equals null. So I'll just go ahead and kind of initialize it to nothing. And then in my overloaded constructor, I'm going to go ahead and add a new parameter, droid. I'm sorry, I should do pdroid. And then I'll add another line at the end of my overloaded constructor, which says droid equals pdroid. And then I will add a getter. So public droid get droid return droid. Okay, and then for the setter, public void set droid pdroid, and then as my method body, droid equals pdroid. Okay, so I got my getter, my setter, and my constructors up to date. So now I'm going to come down to my toString. Okay, so my toString, I think what I will do for that is I'm going to just modify this a little bit so that right now it's printing out like Skywalker, some ID number from Tatooine, has an attack of X and a defense of Y. What I'm going to do is if they have a droid, then I'm going to basically add that little thing right here, right? So Tatooine, Skywalker from Tatooine has a droid or owns a droid named, right? So that's basically what I'm gonna put it right there. So in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a string droid string equals and I'll say let me actually, I'm going to leave that there for a second. Actually, I'm going to leave this undone. I'll go ahead and I'm going to leave this undone. I want to actually wire up main first so we can actually test what we're doing here. It's going to be not terribly complex, but a little bit nuanced, and we want to kind of make sure we can test out what we're writing. So let's leave that one for now, and I'm going to go down to the equals method. And the equals method, I just need to basically add one more piece here. And really, you know, it's up to me. Like, you know, if I have the same name, the same homeworld, the same attack, and the same defense, I'm probably the same person, right? It doesn't really matter if I change my droids. So it's really up to us what we want to do with this equals right here. You might actually choose to keep it false, but I'll go ahead, you know, why not? And I will add to this, or if droid dot equals other humanoid dot droid. Okay, and what this will do is this will actually call the droids dot equals method. Okay, so basically now what I'm saying is for one humanoid to be equal to another, they also have to have the same exact droid. So again, that's kind of up for debate on whether this should be part of my criteria or not, but I'll go ahead and keep it. At this point, you can see I'm getting a terribly long line, and I would probably typically move this to another line. So you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different statements right there. So what I might do is right after this or, maybe the second one, do a backspace, and I'll just hit enter and kind of make that go to the next line. Just for formatting so you don't have this super long line going off the side of your screen. Okay, so now you can see I've got a problem up here, right? Because all of my humanoids are expecting a fifth parameter, right? We just added that up here. We added that droid as a fifth parameter to the humanoid. Okay, so what were we doing? We were on the toString. Let me actually go ahead and, yeah, we've got to fix this right now. So what I'm actually going to do is I don't actually want everyone to have a droid. I'm only going to have 1 or 2 of these guys and girls have a droid. So what I can actually do is I can have another overloaded constructor that does not take in a droid. You can see this is basically saying, hey, there's an error. I only see a constructor that takes in 5 parameters, right? So it's basically telling me, hey, do you want to add a droid to this? And actually what I want to do is I want to create a brand new constructor, and I'm literally just going to copy and paste this right here, and I'm literally just going to remove the droid from this. Okay, and then instead of passing a droid in, I'm going to initialize that droid to null, just like we did in the default constructor. Okay, so now I have 2 different overloaded constructors with 2 different parameter signatures up here. So what that did is it allowed this code to work just fine, because now when I try to initialize Kenobi Bryant, it uses this constructor to do so. Okay, so what I can do now is I can, on like Kenobi Bryant, for instance, I can go ahead and if I want, I can add a droid right in here. It's the 5th parameter. I can say new droid, and here maybe I'll add C3PO, and he was manufactured in the year 3045 and in June. Okay, and then now that I have this R2D2, maybe, you know, our good friend Baby Yoda, I'm going to set the droid for Baby Yoda to R2D2. Okay, so basically just showing that we can set the droid either in the overloaded constructor itself using this first overloaded constructor, or we can just use the normal, right? Baby Yoda had the 4 parameter overloaded constructor, which just defaulted droid to null, and then later on we can set that droid. So now let's go ahead and play this in. Now we can see when when Kenobi Bryant and Baby Yoda identify themselves, I basically want to insert a little bit here that will basically indicate that they actually have a droid. So let's go ahead back to our humanoid class, and we'll do that right here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll say from s %s. Okay, so I'll just put that there for now, and so this would be the 1, 2, 3, 4th parameter. So 1, 2, 3. So right before the attack and defense, I'm going to add my droid string. Okay, so at this point, right, it's just going to print droid everywhere. Reminds me of the old Android droid, if you remember those. Been doing too many of these videos. I'm getting a little crazy. Okay, let's keep going. Let's power through. We're almost done. We're almost done with lesson 1. Okay, so we have our string up here that we need to modify a little bit. We are in the humanoid class. Okay, so what I essentially want to do is I'm going to use the ternary operator to make this real compact. So basically, my droid string, if robot is equal to null, okay, then I'm literally just going to pass an empty string. Okay. Otherwise, let's just start it off by saying droid. Okay, so sorry, not robot, but droid. Okay, if this humanoid does not have a droid, then I'm just gonna replace this little parameter with nothing. Okay, so Luca Skyscraper from Tatooine has an attack, right? But then you can see both Baby Yoda and Kenobi Bryant has this big droid symbol. Okay, so what I'm going to do instead of that is I'm going to say owns a droid, and then I'll do %s. So I need this to be a string.format. So string.format. And then my parameter here is going to be droid.getName. Okay, and I think I'm going to need a comma right here. So let's play this and see what it looks like. Okay, so I see one thing, there's 2 spaces right here where there's no droids. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and delete that space. So now this looks good, but now I need a space here, so I need to put a space at the beginning of owns. Okay, so now if you don't have a droid, it looks good. From Tatooine has an attack of. And if you do have a droid, from Dagobah owns a droid, R2D2, comma, has an attack, a force choke, and defensive cuteness. Okay, so that all looks pretty good. And I've got my string updated to actually handle the droid formatting. Okay, so I think that we are pretty good there. So let's come back to our story now. So we'll come to the bottom, and basically we're at this point where please identify the droid you wish to register to drive your land speeder. Okay. Well, slight issue here is that not all droids actually have, or I'm sorry, not all humanoids have a droid. Okay. So there's 2 cases, right? So at this point, let me kind of comment this up a little bit. So here is where we are printing the initial interaction between DMV and humanoid. Okay, and this is where we print the end of interaction based on if the humanoid has a droid. Okay, so what I'll do here is I'll say if h.getDroid does not equal to null. Okay, this is basically where I write the code that, hey, there is a robot, so we'll carry out the robot interaction. Else, we do something else, right? So else, basically, no droid. Okay, so what I'll do here is I'll go ahead and I'll do a system.out.printf, and at this point I'm going to actually I'm going to have the person, the humanoid, speak to their droid and have them identify themselves. Okay, so it looks like I'm at 3 tabs over. And I will say %s, the humanoid that's talking, followed by another %s. Please identify yourself. And we'll do a new line, followed by a quote. And so that the parameters that I'm passing in here are h.getName. Okay, so the human's talking, and he's talking to the robot, so h.getDroid. dot get name. So now what we'll see is, let's see, I've got an error somewhere right here. Oh, semicolon. Okay, so I'll go ahead and run this, and we see Baby Yoda does have a droid. So he says, Baby Yoda says, R2-D2, please identify yourself. Same thing for Kenobi Bryant to C3PO. Okay, so missing a space right here, so I'll go ahead and add a space. And now it's time for the droid to talk. So system.out.printf. Okay, now I'm gonna put the droid even a little bit more indented, so 4 tabs, just for formatting purposes, so you can easily distinguish things. And here I'm gonna let the droid basically talk, so we'll put the droid's name, and then the droid will just basically identify themselves with their to-do statement. Okay, so replace this first argument with h.getDroid.getName, and the second one with h.getDroid, and that'll call the toString method. So now you'll see R2-D2, my human supply name is R2-D2, and here's my ID, right? I was manufactured in January of 3088. C3PO, my human supply name is C3PO, and I was manufactured in June of 3045. Okay, and then finally, since it's the DMV, system.out.printf. Okay, it looks like my DMV was just 2 tabs over, so we'll do 2 tabs over, and DMV. Okay, we'll close that, and then I'll go ahead and write this. So registration for %s denied, right? Due to insufficient documentation. Okay, so our Empire DMV, they just basically automatically deny us. So we're going to get pretty frustrated, but that's how they work here. So the first and only parameter is just going to be that h.getDroid.getName. Okay, so there we see Kenobi Bryant, C3PO, please identify yourself. My human supply name is, and it looks like I need a new line character after that, but then you do see registration for C3PO denied due to insufficient documentation. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a new line right there. And probably we want one right here as well. Okay. All right, so now all we need to do is update the code right here where we actually don't have a droid. Okay, so in this case, right, that's that moment where you get to the DMV and you realize you don't have what you needed. They, ask you should have a birth certificate or something like that. So, what? I need a droid to be here. Okay. And I forgot my colons here. All right, this is the humanoid that's talking. So we'll do a single argument of h.getName. And then finally, system.out.println, 2 tabs, the DMV says goodbye. Very cold, they just say goodbye. Okay, this should have been a printf, sorry about that. Okay, so we'll go ahead and run that, and we see it's pretty good, right? So the cases where there was no droid, then Luca Skyscraper says, what? I need a droid to be here? And then the DMV says goodbye. Okay, otherwise the DMV's last thing is registration was denied for that particular droid. All right, so looking good. Looking good. All right, so we're pretty good with that general process. We have that humanoid with the robot and the droid. And the droid is all pretty much fleshed out. So I believe the last thing I want to do is to simply kind of finish out this little bit of story right here with a little bit of code. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically create a simple fighting system. Okay, and I'm actually going to keep that for the very last video. I lied to you. I'm going to do one more video. We'll do that last kind of story portion in the last video.